Hey, peace and love. Peace and love. This is your brother Garfield. Let me just start the show off with a news report from the Advice TV show on YouTube. A white supremacist terrorist attacked a black woman from behind on New York City subway. Let's check it out.
You had a woman getting off of work and she was going to catch the subway. And in the midst of her trying to catch the subway, we had a white supremacist terrorist come up to this sister and start assaulting her. Now, I want you to watch the clip of the aftermath of what happened. They're detailing everything that happened to this sister, and it's just ridiculous, but let's roll the clip.
Coming up on the train, and this white man saw her, started punching her in her face because she was black.
And he said because she was black.
Yes!
She was black.
Punching her up in the face, boom, boom, boom. And no cops in sight. No cops in sight.
A guy got me up on the train. And
are you kidding me?
That's some blood on the floor. All right, take it easy.
When I knew you, I didn't know you.
And he just held you and just started.
Yes, this is for me. No, I'm not feeling that. We were ready. I'm going to stop. We were ready. He was coming for us. We jumped on the train because I ran up here looking for police. None in sight. For the first time, none in sight.
Now, according to the person that recorded this video and was getting statements from different people that were there, they stated that she got on the subway at the Church Avenue stop on the queue line. He caught her by herself. She was the only person on the platform at the time. And she was going up the steps from behind and punched her in the face, chest, stomach, and back. It wasn't until she woke up this morning she realized that he stabbed her. He stabbed her in the shoulder, actually, and was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery due to collapsed lung. Because when she woke up the next day, her bed was full of blood. So she had a collapsed lung. The cops took forever to come, and when they finally did try to brush it off as an attempted robbery, even though he did not attempt to take anything, and he yelled "Black B" while hitting her. So this was a coordinated attack by a white supremacist terrorist. Sure. And, you know, we keep going back to what Don Lemon stated, and so far he hasn't been wrong at all. We keep seeing every freaking day these white supremacist terrorists are trying to hurt and harm black folks for no other reason that they're black. They're going after what you call soft targets, and women, children, elderly, people at events, people in nightclubs, country western bars, or whatever. That's what they're choosing to go do. Now, notice that the sister stated that he came from behind. The white supremacists are complete cowards. They are complete cowards. They're not going to go after Pookie and Ray Ray straight up. You notice that? Remember the other white supremacists in Oakland stabbed that young sister Nia Wilson in the neck? I mean, they just cowards, straight up cowards. But this is why I say you cannot have no trust. You cannot be relaxed when these white supremacist terrorists run around this country. They've been allowed to feel emboldened now. And because of who's in the White House, they feel that way. When he says statements like, "I'm a nationalist," white nationalists just celebrated that on all the white supremacist websites. They say, "Oh my God, he's our man. I mean, he speaks to us." This is what they're saying. You know, all the other people that support Trump will come in and say, "Well, he didn't say it like that. He said it." No. When you are speaking, especially in that kind of platform, you have to make sure you say the right words so you don't send certain messages to people. But he knew exactly what he's doing. That's why he doesn't have a problem with that. Even people throughout the world are starting to say, "Hey, what the hell going on with that? Why are you talking about a nationalist?" I mean, everybody else even knew that's kind of wrong, what he got going on. So this is why you're starting to see these attacks ratchet up against black folks. Now, those of you who are catching subways or anywhere, where these white supremacist terrorists could be lurking, keep your eyes open, because this is the second time a Black woman has been attacked in public transportation. It was the BART train last time, and now it's the subway this time. We got to be careful. We got to be careful. Now, this is being investigated as a hate crime, of course, obviously, but yet he's still roaming the streets of New York. So he needs to be found very quickly. And I hope this sister can recover, because she was just attacked for no reason. Getting off of work, trying to go home, and this white supremacist terrorist targeted her, caught her by herself. But leave me a comment, let them know think about this particular story. Understand something. These people are waging a racial war against Black people. What?
The deadly mass shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks, California. Hundreds of people there for college country night when a gunman opened fire.
The shooter killing at least 12 people, including a sheriff's deputy, before he himself was killed, the shooter. Those that were there running, hiding in bathrooms and the attic, breaking windows to escape, doing everything they could. The sheriff calling this man right here, Deputy Sergeant Ron Heelis, a hero. He and so many others trying to help keep people safe.
ABC's Kane Whitworth is on the scene. I want to go back to her right now. Good morning, Kane.
George, good morning. We just got an update from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, and they are saying that this could have been so much worse. They're currently still working to identify the victims, but they have, in fact, identified the shooter. The suspect here is 28-year-old Ian David Long. Now, they say in the past they've actually had minor contacts with him. He was a victim of a battery at a local bar. And also just last April, there was some kind of incident at his home where they sent out authorities as well as mental health specialists that cleared him. Now, we've learned that he was a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps and that his weapon was purchased legally. They know it was a Glock, a .45 caliber. Now, that's designed to hold about 10 rounds, but what authorities are telling us this morning is that it had an extended magazine. Now, they don't know how many rounds that held, and they don't know yet if he reloaded. It appears that he walked right up and shot a security guard and then the employees to the right. We also know that 6 or 7 off-duty officers were in the bar protecting people. This is unbelievable here, George. When you think about this was one of the safest communities in the country just 2 years ago.
Yeah, they had said the exact same thing about Parkland. They're the safest cities in Canada.
Nowhere is safe. Nowhere is.
And we did just get the news that it was one of the 11 that were killed last night. His name was Cody Kaufman. My firstborn son. Only him and I know how much I miss him. I love you so much. Oh, Cody was the big brother that my kids need. I have a daughter coming on the 29th of this month that he was so excited to have his first sister and not now the children. Oh, Cody. This is going to be an absolute heart-wrench and my family. I talked to him last night before he headed out the door. First thing I said was, please don't drink and drive. Last thing I said was, son, I love you. That was the last thing. I thank everybody that has said, had their hearts out for my family since this morning I talked. And I'm so sorry to come to you guys and tell you that my life has changed now forever.
Let's get right to that breaking news. Another week, another mass shooting in America. This one in Thousand Oaks, California. A dance bar packed with college students. That's a live look at the scene right now.
A gunman opening fire at the Borderline Bar and Grill during college country night. Hundreds People that were there were trying to either hide or escape. So here's what we know right now. At least 12 people were killed, including a Ventura County Sheriff's deputy. Multiple others injured. The shooter, a white male in his late 20s, is now dead.
The FBI and
Large plumes of dark smoke are once again rising over Southern California as the Woolsey fire gains strength. Evacuees had just been allowed back inside their homes when the fire kicked back up.
In Washington, meanwhile, Deputy National Security Advisor Mira Ricardo has been escorted off the White House grounds. It follows a statement from First Lady Melania Trump that said Ricardo, quote, no longer deserved the honor of serving in the White House.
The Florida recount continues in the tight governor and Senate races. A judge hearing arguments over the counts has told both sides to, quote, ramp down the rhetoric.
Secretary of State James Mattis says thousands of troops will remain stationed at the border in case that so-called caravan of migrants arrives.
And so the fact that it's clearly headed to Tijuana doesn't change your thinking or your orders? Or your...
No, we meet daily on this issue.
The troops are said to be working in support roles alongside Border Patrol.
During opening statements of the El Chapo Guzman's drug trafficking trial, prosecutors say Guzman waged wars against partners, but his defense attorneys claim that Guzman became the fall guy, while current former Mexican presidents were paid off by another drug lord. Former presidents say those claims are false.
Vigil is held in Chicago and the suburbs to remember 26-year-old Jamel Roberson. Roberson was on duty when he was fatally shot multiple times by a Midlothian police officer who was responding to a report of a shooting inside of a bar. The family has filed a lawsuit against the Department police officer and unjustified.
As of right now, there appears to be a hunt. And those of us that have been kissed by the sun, the police have put targets on our back.
Celebrations in Virginia and New York as Amazon announced it's splitting its new headquarters between those two states.
We are dedicated to being on the leading edge of the next technology and innovation breakthrough.
The sites are in Arlington, Virginia, and Queens in New York City. And the nation's leading e-cigarette maker, Juul Labs, has stopped retail sales of some flavors in an effort to keep them out of the hands of minors. The move comes ahead of an expected government crackdown on underage sale of e-cigarettes. The flavors pulled from store shelves include mango, fruit, and cucumber.
If you're flying for Thanksgiving, you may be in for a headache. Airlines preparing for more than 30 million people to hop on a plane.
We're expecting the busiest travel day of the season to be Monday after Thanksgiving.
And police in London say they've made an arrest in the hunt for a shoplifter who made worldwide headlines because in a surveillance video shot, he looked a lot like the character Ross from the TV show Friends.
I'm ABC News meteorologist Melissa Griffin with the latest weather headlines. Cold air is building in the east. From Texas all the way to New England, an Arctic blast will be bringing frigid wind chills on Wednesday morning, and then a developing storm could bring some snow by later this week. It'll feel like 15 degrees in Dallas Wednesday morning. It will feel like 20 in New York and teens all across the Great Lakes. But it's this developing storm system to bring heavy rain to the southeast throughout the day on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And that's when it starts to transition into a wintry mix and even some snow from St. Louis across the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic. Throughout the day on Thursday, snow will be changing to an icy mix, will be changing to heavy rain for parts of the Northeast from DC up to Philly, even up through Boston throughout the night on Thursday. Accumulating snow is possible, mainly west of the major cities along the I-95 corridor. Parts of New England could see over half a foot of snow by Friday morning.
As we think about those 11 people that were killed there in Pittsburgh in the synagogue.
The darkest day in the history of Pittsburgh, said the mayor, and you're looking right now at the memorial forming outside the synagogue. Overnight, thousands gathered for vigil at the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. You see them there to remember and honor those victims of the deadliest attack on American Jews in our nation's history.
All of our hearts are heavy this morning. The Pittsburgh Steelers holding a moment of silence before kickoff Sunday. The Temple, just a few miles from the team's practice facility, and overseas, the Eiffel Tower going dark to remember the victims of that massacre, while in Tel Aviv, this tribute, City Hall there flashing between Israel and America's flags, a show of solidarity.
It really was. We have team coverage of the tragic mass shooting, and Amy Robach starts us off. She's there in Pittsburgh for us. Good morning, Amy.
Robin, good morning. Police and the FBI continue their investigation into Saturday's horrific mass shooting. Several blocks surrounding Tree of Life Synagogue remain closed today. And this morning, the alleged shooter is facing 29 charges, 22 of which make him eligible for the death penalty.
All city units are being sent to an active shooter.
9:54 a.m. Saturday morning, tragedy strikes as a morning of prayer quickly shifts to a morning of deadly chaos. In under a minute, police rushing to the scene of an active shooter at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh early Saturday morning. Barry Werper was inside when the gunfire began. He says he first heard a crash.
I saw a body on the steps, and I realized that the crash I'd heard must have been a gunshot. The gentleman walks in with a long gun, and I could see the jacket he had on and a pair of pants of some sort.
The alleged shooter, identified as 46-year-old Robert Bowers, was carrying an assault-style rifle and 3 handguns, according to police.
As we approached the front of the synagogue, he began firing at us.
According to the FBI, Bowers hurled words of hate against Jews as he murdered them. The gunman then retreated further into the synagogue. A SWAT team enters, discovering a scene of unimaginable horror. 11 people, 3 women and 8 men dead. As medics rushed to evacuate the wounded, officers climbed to the 3rd floor where Bowers had fled. What came next? An all-out gun battle. Bowers shot, wounded, and crawling on his knees, he then surrenders.
Suspects talking about all these Jews need to die. We're still communicating with them.
At hospitals, nurses and doctors steadying themselves for the worst.
I think that everybody here, that was when they said there's not anybody else coming. We were all saddened by that.
Devastating. Overnight, the community came together at a vigil for those lives lost. Bowers now in federal custody, facing charges.
29 separate federal crimes. There are 11 counts of murdering victims who are exercising their religious beliefs. There are 11 counts of using a firearm to commit murder, and each of these counts is punishable by death.
The victims ranging in age from 54 to 97. 86-year-old Sylvan Simon and his wife, 84-year-old Bernice, killed in the same place they wed 6 decades earlier in December 1956. Hear their wedding announcement describing the candlelight ceremony at the Tree of Life. 75-year-old Joyce Feinberg, the widowed mother of 2 sons and a grandmother, was a retired research specialist at the University of Pittsburgh. And brothers 54-year-old David and 59-year-old Cecil Rosenthal, who lived together, loved going to Saturday services. They never missed a week.
The Rosenthal brothers had attended Tree of Life Synagogue since they were children, and friends described the brothers as inseparable. Also among those killed, 97-year-old Rose Mallinger. Friends telling us you've never met a more vivacious 97-year-old. She was full of life and a fixture of the community. Also this past Saturday, normally a group of school children would have been inside the Tree of Life Synagogue attending Shabbat services. One of those children had a conflict with Saturday, and so thankfully for those families, that service was moved till Sunday. Robin?
Oh my, all right, Amy, thank you.
Large plumes of dark smoke are once again rising over Southern California as the Woolsey fire gains strength. Evacuees had just been allowed back inside their homes when the fire kicked back up.
In Washington, meanwhile, Deputy National Security Advisor Mira Ricardo has been escorted off the White House ground.
Secretaries and agency heads accountable, totally accountable for the cybersecurity
of their organization, of which we probably don't have as much, certainly not as much as we should have. We must defend and protect federal networks and data. We operate these networks on behalf of the American people, and they are very important and very sacred. We will empower these agencies to modernize their IT systems for better security and other reasons. We will protect our critical infrastructure, such as power plants and electrical grids. The electrical grid problem is a problem, but we'll have it solved relatively soon. We must work with private sector. The private sector is way ahead of government in this case, to ensure that owners and operators of critical infrastructure have the support they need from the federal government to defend against cyber threats. Now, I think a pretty good example of this was, despite having spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars more money than we did, the Democratic National Committee was hacked successfully, very successfully, and terribly, frankly. And the Republican National Committee was not hacked, meaning it was hacked, but they failed. And it was reported, I believe, by Rights and other people that it was hacked, but we had a very strong defense system against hacking. So despite spending a lot less money than the Democrats, and in all fairness, winning, people don't say that. We spent a lot less money, Admiral, and we won. That's good, right? Isn't that a good thing when you can spend less and win? But we were also very successful in our defense against hacking. We're going to make sure that cybersecurity is central to both our military and the ships, planes, and tanks built by great Americans for our great American military. And our military will become stronger and stronger as we go along.
You allow a vote, a Senate vote on a measure to protect the Mueller investigation?
As I've said before, it's not necessary. The Mueller investigation is not under threat. The president said repeatedly he's not going to dismiss the Mueller investigation. He said repeatedly it's going to be allowed to finish. That also happens to be my view. The president certainly expressed his point of view about how he feels about the investigation. But as you can imagine, we speak frequently. It's never been any indication that he wants to dismiss Mueller or the investigation. It's going to be allowed to finish.
I will hold my cabinet secretaries and agency heads accountable, totally accountable, for the cybersecurity of their organization, of which we probably don't have as much, certainly not as much as we should have. We must defend and protect federal networks and data. We operate these networks on behalf of the American people, and they are very important and very sacred. We will empower these agencies to modernize their IT systems for better security and other reasons. We will protect our critical infrastructure, such as power plants and electrical grids. The electrical grid problem is a problem, but we'll have it solved relatively soon. We must work with private sector. The private sector is way ahead of government in this case, to ensure that owners and operators of critical infrastructure have the support they need from the federal government to defend against cyber threats. Now, I think a pretty good example of this was, despite having spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars more money than we did, the Democratic National Committee was hacked successfully, very successfully, and terribly, frankly. And the Republican National Committee was not hacked, meaning it was hacked, but they failed. And it was reported, I believe, by Rights and other people that it was hacked, but we had a very strong defense system against hacking. So despite spending a lot less money than the Democrats, and in all fairness, winning, people don't say that. We spent a lot less money, Admiral, and we won. That's good, right? Isn't that a good thing when you can spend less and win? But we were also very successful in our defense against hacking. We're going to make sure that cybersecurity is central to both our military and the ships, planes, and tanks built by great Americans for our great American military. And our military will become stronger and stronger as we go along.
I hope y'all was listening to that crazy man a while ago.
As I've said before, it's not necessary. The Mueller investigation is not under the threat. The president.
Let's get out of here. And let's get out of here. All right. Look at this right here. This just came in, family. Just came in. Police were called for a wellness check, but ended up killing another armed man. This is just craziness. This just happened. They just uploaded this. Travis Jordan had been living with his friend and co-worker Paul Johnson and his wife in the couple's Minneapolis home. On Friday, Johnson became concerned about Jordan's well-being and called police to do a wellness check. Jordan had been having a lot of suicidal thoughts because of depression, anxiety, but he's not taking any pills for that. He's just taking alcohol for it, a caller told the police dispatcher, according to 911 transcript. When police arrived, they were supposed to do a wellness check, but instead, wow. But instead, shots were fired and another unarmed black man ended up dead. Why are tasers not pulled out? Why is that not what's in their hand? Jordan asked the news station as he looked at the spot on his lawn where his friend laid dying. Why is the lethal form of de-escalating the situation ended it in their hands and not all the other ways that could have been done? According to a press release, the victim was carrying a knife, but Johnson says his friend didn't have any weapons. Johnson says Jordan was aware that the police had been called. He doesn't want to live. He doesn't even think about his future anymore. Johnson told the dispatch, adding, I told him I was going to call the cops because I was really worried about him, and he threatened me and said, go ahead and call the cops. I'll talk to them when they get here. Later in the conversation, the caller said, I've looked through his text messages before, and he's asked for to find him a gun for him from someone. Then I confronted him about that a long time ago. Jordan's cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds. Where is France? When them Jews died at the synagogue, y'all was flying and turned this dark and all that stuff. Where's all this outrage when black people are killed? I want to play a video that my brother sent me this morning. I want y'all to take a listen to Brother Khalid right here. This is years ago. This is in the 1990s.
Some abracadabra magic.
What if there were a peaceful solution? What if there were a way to
There is no peaceful solution.
And to stop police brutality peacefully? If there were, though, would you advocate that peaceful solution? What if there were a way to
There is no peaceful solution.
And to stop police brutality peacefully? What if there were a peaceful solution? What if there were a way to
There is no peaceful solution.
And to stop police brutality peacefully? If there were, though, would you advocate that?
We're not going to stand here and speak.
What if there were a peaceful solution? What if there were a way to
There is no peaceful solution.
And to stop police brutality peacefully? If there were, though, would you advocate that?
We're not going to stand here and speak hocus pocus, some Shazam, some abracadabra magic. There is no peaceful way. The white man, I say to you over and over again, is absolutely disagreeable to get along with in peace.
I was on my way to Harlem, my mission to spend time with New York's black power groups, from the moderate to the extreme. I wanted to find out to what extent it accept me, a white man, into their lives. And I'd arrived at a sensitive time.
There is anger tonight after 4 New York City police officers shot and killed an unarmed African immigrant earlier
22-year-old Diallo was unarmed when police killed him. They fired 41 shots. 3 of the 4 cops have been involved in shootings before.
The 4 officers involved have not testified before the grand jury investigating the shooting.
Galvanizing the community reaction to the shooting of Amadou Diallo was Reverend Al Sharpton, New York's most prominent black activist, the man I'd come to see.
All right, hug the person next to you, tell your dog they'll call the African.
Don't I get a hug?
No problem.
The Rev was rallying support for a march on Wall Street to protest the shooting of Amadou Diallo.
No turning around, no backing up, no selling out, no bowing down, no submitting, no compromise. It's going to be no justice. No justice. All right. Everybody sing. Everybody now. Hey, everybody say,
Rev was a busy man, so I met one of his aides.
how you doing, brother? How you doing?
You're advanced.
I'm advanced.
How's it going?
I'm fine. I can't complain. How's everything with
Yeah,
you?
it's not too bad. It's a very emotional meeting. People seem very upset.
They are.
Yeah.
We get to hell. I mean, people are being shot there. They don't bother to ask, are you the right guy or the wrong guy?
Yeah.
They just look up, see a person of color, and other people don't have to be. When we wake up in the morning, we have to come out combat ready because we know the man is going to push us to the corner, snap us down, search us, and sometimes he put things on us. So we have something to be conscious and concerned about.
Yeah.
And no other people don't understand. And the reason you can.
What did she say?
The white man is the devil, she said.
That makes me slightly uncomfortable.
The people here, no. Most of the people here are very understanding because we don't preach that hate thing because we don't know who, we just want people.
Devil? What do you mean a devil?
That's an expression that the Muslims. Muslim, it is to talk that position that.
You mean like regular Muslims or?
No. I'm talking about certain activists that used to make that term. They should say that quite often. That the white man is the devil. That's a basic. They've been saying that for years. You don't hear it as much as you used to, but you used to hear it quite a bit.
Really? Oh, you don't hear it as much as you used to hear it.
No.
That's interesting too. I'd like to find out more about that.
Well,
does Reverend Al Sharpton think that the white man is the devil?
No. If he did that, he wouldn't be dealing with the white man.
No, exactly. You know what I'm hoping to do is maybe get some time with him and get him to explain the issues, maybe show me around New York a little bit.
If you get 5 minutes, you'd be lucky. You know what I mean? The man is very busy. When you talk to him, you got to be talking and walking because he's started moving all the time.
Yeah. Reverend Sharpton. I'm Louis from the BBC. Can we get a hook up and maybe go on I thought we might go on a tour of New York and find out about some of your work. Reverend Sharpton? Yeah, no, I'm not expecting to do it now. I just wanted to have just to say hello and hook up later in the week. Yeah, so I'll call you and we'll fix up a time. Given the frosty reception, I knew it would take something special to coax the Rev out of his office. So I hired a tour bus. Hello there. Thank you very much for meeting with us.
How you doing?
Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm Louis Theroux from BBC Two. And what we're hoping to do, if you've got the time, is do a quick tour of Harlem. Does that sound all right?
Fine.
Okay, superb. Excellent.
New York is basically a city where blacks are in one area. Some areas is blacks and Latinos. The whites in a total different community. The high idea of integration in America is a myth.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, particularly in New York. There's no banks in Harlem. And when you look at the lack of development and the housing conditions and the